Tom? Nothing? Okay. Let me grab a picture of everyone right quick here. Thank you.
Got it. All right, 45 seconds to show open. The opening video runs about a minute. Everyone will put their cell phones on stun. That would be appreciated.
15 seconds, people.
15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff of the Falcon 9 to the space station on the first commercial launch from Kennedy Space Center's historic Pad 39A.
Pad operations on Pad 9A. Copy, Wilson. Stable, ultrasound.
First stage coming back to SpaceX landing site 1.
Landing legs are deployed.
Join sonic booms.
Stage 1 touchdown confirmed. Landing operators moving 11.100 on recovery net.
And Dragon has separated, spacecraft separation. And the solar arrays are now deployed. Right on schedule. And the arrays appear to deploy successfully. Good morning, everyone. This is our happy and successful post-launch news conference for CRS 10. And here to talk some about the launch today and the mission coming up, we have William Spetch, the Deputy Manager for the Transportation Office for the International Space Station at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. Jessica Jensen, the Dragon Mission Manager for SpaceX. And Pam Underwood, Manager for the FAA Office of Commercial Space Transportation. So we'll begin with our opening comments from William Spetch from JSC.
All right. So obviously a great launch today. We were really excited to see everything go well after yesterday's countdown fun and getting going. Dragon is on its way. Space Station is in great shape and really looking forward to getting the 5,000 plus pounds of cargo coming up to the vehicle. They're going to capture in a couple of days here, and then we'll get right into a lot of robotic operations to go get into the trunk and pull out all of the payloads that we have in the trunk going forward. So obviously this kicks off a busy time for us on the ISS. We've got a progress launch coming up here on the 22nd as well, and we'll be looking forward to getting that on board station shortly after Dragon gets there. So looking forward to a busy time in orbit over the next month, working all the science that we've got on this Dragon.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Now to Jessica Jensen, Dragon Mission Management Specialist from SpaceX.
Yeah, so obviously it's been a super exciting day. It's really awesome to see 39A roar back to life for the first time since the shuttle era. And it was extremely special that this first launch off 39A was a Dragon mission for NASA headed to the space station. So all in all, just I feel great. It's been fantastic. So Dragon is doing well, as you guys saw from the video. The solar arrays have deployed. The thrusters are firing. Dragon is headed to the space station and will arrive there very early Wednesday morning. And as you also saw, this was our 8th successful first stage landing and the 3rd successful landing at Landing Zone 1. So we're always very excited to get our first stage boosters back. They're really great for actually post-flight inspections, checking everything out, and then to use them in the future. I just want to give a thanks to NASA, the FAA, and the Air Force. Their support, especially for this first launch out of 39A, has been critical. We really thank your guys' support through all of this.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. The FAA Office of Space Commercial Transportation now represented by Pam Underwood. Once again, Pam.
Great, thank you, George. Good morning, everybody, and thank you. We're very pleased to be part of this great day. We'd like to congratulate SpaceX for their successful launch this morning, and of course to NASA for the very important cargo now on its way to the International Space Station, and of course Kennedy Space Center for having a launch, or first launch, FAA license launch from here, and of course the first launch since the retirement of the shuttle program. So it's just a wonderful day, and we're very pleased to be part of it. The FAA licensed today's activity and provided oversight to the public safety aspects during the mission. The FAA is responsible for ensuring the protection of public property, national security, and foreign policy interests of the United States during commercial launch and reentry. And we're also responsible for encouraging, facilitating, and promoting the U.S. commercial space transportation industry. The FAA and NASA are partners in the commercial resupply program for the International Space Station. And as I mentioned before, we're very pleased to be part of this historic event and look forward to the activities to come.
All right, thank you, Pam. And with that, we'll take questions here first in the audience, then we'll take some on the phone, then we'll go to social media, which social media you can contact us by #AskNASA and get questions as well. And if you would, please have one question and a follow-up so that we have time to go on to everyone else that has a question. So we'll start first. Marcia, I think you have a question. Yep. All right. Marcia?
Hi, Marcia Dunn, Associated Press for Jessica. I'm wondering, have the SpaceX party started already? And how big of a deal was this for SpaceX? It seems like you make an incremental leap every time. And where does this fit in all that?
Yes, this is a huge deal for us. Anytime time we can get a new pad off the ground. We completely modernized the way the pad is built. So yeah, it's super exciting, and you're always a little bit nervous. We've run tons of tests to ensure that the hold down was released properly, and as you guys see, the strong back throws back in a different way than it used to at pad 40. And we've done tons of ground tests, but we've never created an actual rocket with a payload on top for that. So to watch that happen for the first time was just amazing. Yeah, so I'm sure the team will be out celebrating tonight. As of now, we're still watching Dragon and ensuring that it gets to on its way to the space station safely. It still does checkouts for the next several hours. So, but all is looking great. We're not expecting any issues, but yeah, we'll be out tonight if you want to find us.
All right, another question? That's right back here.
Hi, Tim Fernholz from Quartz. This is also for Jessica. I know yesterday the launch was scrubbed for a couple of issues. Can you talk through what SpaceX did to address those overnight? Were there technicians inside the rocket? Was it something you could look at from outside just to understand what happened?
Sure, yeah. We scrubbed for one issue yesterday. It was for the thrust vector controller actuator on the second stage. We have two actuators on the second stage, and they steer the second stage nozzle through the second stage flight. So what happened was yesterday we run several checkouts leading up to T0. And while the behavior we were seeing on the backup mechanism was within our allowables, it was slightly out of family for each of the different checkouts. And it was something that we hadn't really seen before. And just so out of an abundance of caution, we called that actuator suspect. And we decided to scrub for the day. So we looked further at the data. We did isolate it to the actuator itself and decided to remove and replace that actuator last night. So yes, we did have to bring the vehicle horizontal and have technicians go in there and replace it. And then we were doing, in parallel with that, doing lots of analysis, checking everything out, ensuring that there wasn't some other, issue we were missing. So we replaced the actuator last night, ran checkouts on the pad, and then, that all went perfectly nominally, and then checked out again today throughout the count, and everything looked as expected.
All right, Jay?
Jay Barbary with NBC News. Right now, Jessica, what's your best guess on when we'll fly the uncrewed flight and the crewed flight?
So the uncrewed flight is aimed for the end of this year, and the crewed flight will be next year. I can't give exact dates right now, but yeah, we are aiming for the end of this year and early next year for the crewed flight.
And as a follow-up, would you please post on the SpaceX billboard when you get over there, none of your SpaceX drunks to call me anytime during the night to get them out of jail. I'm tired of doing it.
Will do.
Right, a question right here on the front row.
Hello, Kyle Brown with Media Majors, corresponding for the Planetary Society. This question is for Jessica. Given the successful return to flight from Vandenberg and now from 39A, what pad is SpaceX targeting for the first reused Stage 1 booster?
That will be 39A as well. The launch is scheduled for March, so it's coming up very quickly. It's our SES customer, and so look out for it soon.
Thank you.
Ken?
Thanks. Ken Kramer, Universe Today Northeast Astronomy Forum. For the FAA, can you describe a little bit more all the work that you do, since this is brand new for launching the Falcon 9 off of 39A? Can you describe that in some detail? As well as why did this take till pretty much the last second, almost, Friday afternoon to issue the license? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. The FAA licenses for public safety, as well as national security and foreign policy interests of the United States. Our regulations are devised as such so that we make sure that those elements are addressed and compliant before we issue a license. So specifically for this launch, we do the same thing we do for every launch. It's a great day for SpaceX and a great day for 39 Alpha, but the regulations are the same regardless where you fly to. So that's a nice thing for the commercial space industry, that you have that consistency across wherever it's from. It also means that effectively our job, we review the same things each time we go through it. Vehicles change, locations change, absolutely, but we do apply the same approach, the same level of rigor with regard to public safety for every launch. Specifically for this flight, of course, the license was issued. We have 180 days from the application acceptance to when we can, by law, when we can or should by law issue a license, and we were well within that for this particular launch. We did not issue the license until we made sure that we did review all of those regulations to make sure that the public safety elements were satisfied. But once we had that, we went ahead and issued launch for the activity that took place this morning.
Can I just follow up? Because of the Amos 6 explosion, were there any complications?
For this particular activity, we had previously closed the Amos 6 investigation well in advance of this particular activity, so there wasn't, from our perspective, no.
Okay, right here,
Jim
Jim.
Siegel, I'm with the Celebration News and Spaceflight Insider. I have a follow-up for Pam based on what Ken was asking. Could you tell us a little bit more about how you physically oversee the process? Do you have people looking over the shoulder of the engineers and others at SpaceX? And are you on the pad or in the building where they build up the rocket? How many people are involved, and how long a process is this? Is it a 1 week process, a 1 month, 5 months, whatever?
And that's a great question, and it really goes to insight as to how does the FAA implement that public safety responsibility that we have, and I'm happy to answer that. The FAA, we have 180 days, as I previously mentioned, from the time a license is accepted to when we need to issue a determination for a particular launch. So that goes to the level of involvement well in advance that we have with the companies and getting ready for and preparing for the activity. With regard to your second question, which I think is closer in, once the license is issued, how do we then go make sure that everything is satisfied? That's through a process we call safety inspection, and we do have people on site. There's a state safety inspection team that is present for inspections of public safety elements, things that are critical for public safety, installation of things that are critical for public safety. So our folks have been on the ground with SpaceX now for weeks and months leading up to this activity. That would include, on day of launch, we had 2 safety inspectors sitting on console right there in this control center watching. And again, we're looking for compliance, demonstration of compliance. You know, in advance of a launch, the company, in this case SpaceX, told us how they were planning on meeting our very important public safety regulations, and we're there to follow up to make sure that that's actually going out.
As a follow-up, have you ever withheld a license in the past for any particular launch for any particular reason?
So the any specific instances I won't be at liberty to talk about because that would be considered proprietary. You can find information about any license we've issued on our website, and it's public knowledge for when we actually issue a license.
Thank you.
All right, back over here, Irene in the back. Wait for the mic just for a second.
Hi, Irene Fox for Jessica. I may not just be understanding how the system works, but with the clouds today, I was just curious if the autonomous flight safety system, does that give SpaceX any more leeway to fly? There's no longer as much line of sight needed for brave safety, or does it affect anything other than the actual detonation of that system if it should be flying off course? Thanks.
Sure. So, Pam, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that most of the weather rules don't have as much to do with radar tracking as they do with vehicle safety. So one of the things you worry about is building up a charge as you go through clouds on the vehicle. And so that's independent of, range and radar assets. So it would have been the same, if those clouds had hung around longer today and would have been the right type of clouds, we wouldn't have been able to launch, even with our autonomous flight safety system.
Thanks.
All right, James, did you have a question? Yes, all right, you come right here to James Dean.
Thank you, James Dean, Florida Today. Jessica, I was wondering if you could tell us of the boosters you've recovered to date, prior to today, of course. How many does SpaceX consider to be reusable, I guess, for additional flights beyond, again, we have SES-10 coming up.
Right.
And just about the landings in general. I mean, I guess keep asking, does it seem routine, but it does seem to be becoming more routine now. Is that your expectation every time now? Or just kind of where are you at with your sense of the chance of landing successes?
Yeah, so it is our expectation, but again, it's a secondary goal. If we do lose a first stage, it does not hurt our business in any way. It only helps our business when we recover it. So again, it does not affect the primary mission at all. We will still deploy satellites into orbit and Dragon into orbit. If the first stage winds up not making it back to land or not landing on the drone ship, it's not a big deal. Like I said, when we can get them back, it's great and we can reuse them. So right now, as of today, this is the 8th one that we've recovered. And we have, let's see, so the 7 we had before, there was one of them that we used for extensive life testing in Texas. I think we had published some information about that we ran it through. I can't remember how many mission duty cycles, or it's equivalent of a flight, and we ran it through, I think, 8 of those. So we basically took a flown booster and then put it on our test stand in Texas and just kept running it repeatedly as if it was seeing flight multiple times. So we would not likely refly that one. All the other ones are looking good and are potential candidates for reflight. But some we may choose to just do inspections on, which can be very useful for the company. We also have to work with our customers to ensure that they are okay with using reflown rockets. So we haven't decided which ones are going to which customers and which ones will be flown, but as we move forward, we expect to be able to refly more of them.
Okay, we're going to take a couple of social media questions here right now and then come back.
Cool, thanks. I'm Emily Farr with NASA Social Media. This first Ask NASA question comes from Thomas on Twitter, and he wants to know how much time does it take to prepare 39A from one launch to the next?
I can answer that one. So it's roughly 2 weeks. Yep, and depending on, we added significantly more blast protection at 39A compared to what we had at Pad 40. Just based on lessons learned. So we're hoping that the turnaround, along with the massive water deluge system that we now have, protected the pad and that we can actually turn it around pretty quickly. But as of now, we're assuming that's going to take 2 weeks.
And the second one comes from Pauline. What is the reasoning behind the decision to have the strong back pull away differently than before?
So the reason for the strong back pulling back differently, oh man, get this one. So partly it's to help with the umbilicals. So we have the umbilicals that come off basically the strong back, is what it's called. All of your electrical and plumbing runs through there, and then those connect to the vehicle through umbilicals. And we'll be able to make what we'd say like higher reliability umbilicals, not as long, they won't get caught on things, the way we have the system currently set up today.
All right, more questions over here. Let's go right here on the end.
Trace Gephardt with NASA Spaceflight. Wondering if you can talk about the work that still has to be done on Pad 8 for the Crew Dragon missions coming up, and how that work's going to be balanced with the cadence of launches that are coming up on that pad until Slip 40 is ready again.
Sure thing. So the main thing we have to do is add the crew accommodation. So we're in the process of building an arm that the crew will actually come out onto Dragon on that at a higher level from the tower. So we have to get all of that underway. The goal is, now that we've had our first launch at 39A, we'll obviously do inspections after flight today, see how it looks. But the goal is to send most people back over to Pad 40 to start getting that back up. We hope to have that up and running sooner sometime this year. And that by doing that, by shifting most of our commercial satellite missions over to Pad 40 while keeping Dragon missions at 39A, that we'll be able to spread the missions out enough so that we can get all the crew work done in time.
And to follow up too. And is the pad, when it was configured for today's launch, is it also ready to host the first Falcon Heavy launch?
It is.
And what's the schedule for that?
I forget the schedule. I don't have the exact date off the top of my head, but it is configured for Heavy.
All right, more questions over here. Yes, right here.
Hi, I'm Sarah Lou with Space.com. For William, I was wondering if you could say what the crew members' first priority will be as they start unloading the cargo.
So the first thing, we have a lot of time-critical stuff that we bring up that gets loaded very late into the vehicle. So their first steps for the crew will be getting that offloaded onto the vehicle and getting into the experiments. I think one of the first things is the rodents and getting them, one of our mice set up and in their accommodations on board. And then also the ground teams will be working very hard and very quickly on the robotics ops that we talked about to change out the science that's in the trunk, pull it out, and then put it in its spots in orbit and put additional cargo back in that's no longer being used and to have that disposed of.
Well, as a follow-up, can you say what any of those payloads that are returning back to the track are?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I apologize. I'd have to get back to you.
All right, any more questions over here? I'm right over here on the end, but it'll go over to the side.
Daddy Cesari with the Youth Phoenix. Speaking of the Falcon Heavy, I was hoping to hear if there's going to be any recovery attempts for the For Jessica, maybe you can talk a little bit about what you're going to be doing to the pad to inspect it and prep it for the next launch. And for Pam, what's the FAA's role in the review and oversight of that before issuing a launch license for the next commercial mission?
So the main thing we want to inspect is all the systems that are critical for launch. So cosmetic damage is no problem as long as the electrical wiring and all the plumbing for our locks, kerosene, the RP1, helium, as long as that is all intact, that's what we're really looking for. So if there's any damage to the critical flight systems, we're going to need to repair those. But if there's some cosmetic damage, that's okay. That's actually expected. But that's mainly what we're looking for, making sure the critical systems are ready for the next flight.
Right. And, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I didn't know if you wanted, for my part of that question, Jeff, the FAA, as I mentioned before, we issue licenses for public safety, national security, foreign policy in the United States. We will follow the same process we've done before. When we're certain that those elements of public safety and our regulations are satisfied, then we'll issue the license.
All right, we'll come over to this side of the room, right here in the back.
Hi, Bart Leahy, Spaceflight Insider. Questions for Pam. Was there extra scrutiny because this is the first time it's a commercial launch on Launch Complex 39A, and follow-up with that would be, now that you've had the first launch, will it be simpler for SpaceX licensing moving forward?
So that's a great question, and one I've heard before from even applicants. Is the same process proceed? The answer is yes. We do the same thing every time. We look at the same regulations. The same regulations apply for every particular launch. You know, with regard to whether or not it's easier or more scrutiny on this particular launch, we have to satisfy public safety, and the public safety elements that we have to satisfy are consistent across all launches from anywhere that we license. Making it easier for them in the future, I would imagine it's probably a little bit easier for SpaceX once they kind of get their processes under a certain amount of regular cadence, I would imagine. But, you know, from an FAA perspective, we have the same, you know, thresholds for public safety element for every particular license and every particular launch.
All right, right here.
Hi, Ken Chang, New York Times. For Jessica, what's the condition of 40 and what do you have left to do to make it operational?
So the condition of 40 is still, we haven't spent a lot of time on it. What happened was we did the initial assessment of 40 after the Amos accident, and we looked at where 39A was, and we basically made a decision at that point to prioritize most of our team over to 39A. That was going to be the quickest way for us to return to flight and the safest way. So we prioritized most of our team to 39A. We have completed all the inspections at 40 and have done some minor work there, but we really still, you know, have to do the majority of the work there.
Did you have to follow? All right, let's go right next to him.
Yeah, Scott Johnson with Spaceflight Insider. I believe this is the third booster to be returned to land. I think the first one during daylight hours. With that in mind, will there be any opportunity for media to go out to landing zone 1 and view or photograph the landed booster?
Someone from our media team may be able to answer that. I don't know the answer to that question.
All right, with that, let's take one more question here real quickly, and then we'll wrap it up right here on the end.
For Jessica and Pam, I'm wondering what the current plans for the expansion of Landing Zone 1 are to accommodate the Falcon Heavy cores, and for the FAA's part of that, is there anything different with 3 cores coming back 2 at the same time, 1 a few minutes later?
I actually don't have much information on that. Do you know?
Well, I can speak from the FAA side. You know, again, the same regulations will apply when it is in fact 3 boosters, whether or not it's 3 or 1. We look forward to working with SpaceX and reviewing those elements once they're determined. And from that perspective, once we know all of those public safety elements and regulations are satisfied, we'll be able to license it just like we had done something today, only it would be 3 boosters instead of 1.
Right, Marcia, real short. Just wrapping up here.
Sorry. Yes, Marcia AP for Jessica. So when is the next target launch from 39A? What's the date?
In approximately 2 weeks.
Oh, okay, so no firm date.
I don't have the date off the top of my head, but it's in approximately 2 weeks.
All right, that's going to wrap up our briefing. Now that we're off the ground and Dragon is headed toward the station. For further information, you can go to www.nasa.gov/station. And that will conclude our briefing for the launch of CSRS-10. Thank you very much.
That would be great.
shit. Oh, I was recording.
Yeah, I did it.
Thank you.
I looked back at you and I was like, dude.
So answer to that question about going out to the pad. No. But yeah, I already talked to him. So willing to losing the chain in the future, but it's going to be a while because it's security and then safety. So we're worried about, what if the honeycomb is in any way damaged? It tips over while we're out there, and any fuel that's still in it goes. And then for ever setting up remotes, it will never happen. It will never happen as far as setting up remotes. Is the answer.
Wow. There's a lot of things that they never thought they would delay in the booster to begin with. You know what I'm saying? So, SpaceX should never say no.
And I got some nice and tight, and then I got some out.
Okay, I got some water ones too. We don't ever do much with those. But
Still recording?
yeah. About to turn it off.
Oh, at about 8.5 minutes, it automatically stops the file and starts a new file. So you're going to have a little bit of audio cutoff.
Alright, that's alright.
That's not a big... At least you caught that on film. It's alright, I've dropped plenty of lenses and they still work fine.
Never a good feeling.
Dude, that's a good question.
Appreciate it. I was so... I already knew the answer.
Oh, stop the LED He's got to have it. Yeah, I think that.
I don't know if it showed, but I was definitely nervous. Hopefully the entire society likes it, you know? That's all I care about.
They will.